Hi guys, welcome back to our short videos on business studies. Today we're going to continue with nature of operations, and what we'll cover is some importance of efficiency, effectiveness, productivity, and sustainability. We're also going to learn about labor productivity and as well as how business are impacted when they move towards sustainability. Now, there's a lot of terms here being used, and um, this recording will be done in two parts for this particular section. So will not be taking too much time, and I hope you can follow as we go along. Now, productivity, what is it? Have you ever heard someone say that I'm not productive today? Right? So what does that really mean, right? As a student, do you know when you're productive and when you're not? Right? So, well, when one is productive, it's normally when they have managed to accomplish or complete more tasks. When person A or a friend of yours got the same task as you to complete, but they do it within half an hour while you take 2 hours to complete it, then that's an example of your friend being more productive than you. All right, and let's go to the slide so you have a better picture. So it comes from the word produce. Production is the process of transforming inputs into outputs. For example, to produce a computer, right? So if you remember the four factors of production, that's where we talk about what resources are being used to produce a particular product or a service. So depending on how much, input you have, how much resources you have to produce a particular product, and how productive you are, that means that you are able to produce more with the same given amount of time. So in this case, in making a house, you have your labor and your resources. And if let's say this amount of labor and resources is able to produce four houses instead of just one, then yes, it is more productive. All right, same inputs but more output. Okay, productivity is not the same as level of production, so it does not mean that if you have a certain amount of input, then that's all you're going to produce. It should be actually higher or sometimes less productive because of certain reasons, that maybe your workers are new and they don't know how to build houses, yet they are asked to build houses, right? So with the given amount of input they have, they're still not able to produce four houses. Okay, now, it is important because when workers are more productive, or the four factors of production are really used to produce more, then the average cost of making each of those houses becomes a little bit more lower, right? So businesses can make, well, they have more money uh, because they spend lesser on their cost of production, and they can still make profits while they sell it for a higher price. Okay. Now, next one. Let's talk about labor productivity. It refers to how much one worker can produce in a given time, or and based on how much resources that they have. Okay? So to measure, this is the formula. Labor productivity equals to total output in a given time, how much is produced versus how many people were employed during that time to create that output. So how productive are your laborers or your workers? Okay. Example, you have company A and company B, where they have different levels of output. Company A has 10 workers here with 5,000 outputs, right? And company B has 20 workers, double the amount, with 12,000 outputs. All right, where this outputs refers to kitchen cupboards, right? 5,000 kitchen cupboards versus 12,000 kitchen cupboards, where simply speaking, you can see that, oh, this has 10 workers, so 5,000, or double the amount, they produce more, right? Now let's look at labor productivity using the formula that we have. It is, how do you calculate 500 and 600 here? It's based on how much output divided by how many workers. So for company A, they have 5,000 units divided by 10 workers gives them 500 units. Company B has 12,000 units divided by 20 workers this time, and 600 units. So at one glance, you can see that workers from company B is more productive than company A, right? Even though they have more workers, right? But look at 10 to 20 would be 5,000 to 10,000, but here you have 12,000 instead of 10,000. So they are much productive than company A, right? So labor productivity is higher for company B and then company A, but it's also important for you to note that both companies have different types of resources, maybe using different types of resources in the production, right? Number of machines, because they are different companies. They are producing the same thing, but they are two different companies. Yeah. So how much a machine, how many machines are used to make the kitchen cupboards and so forth will be different, and therefore you may be able to produce more or less depending on if you have mechanical assistance versus not. Right. Now, in business, it's important to have workers and resources who are productive. Why? Because when a company has workers and the resources that they use can produce more output, more kitchen cupboards, then there's a potential for them to sell those more, more products so that they can make more sales, and that means they would have more profits if they're able to keep their average cost low, which means their workers would definitely have to be very, very productive. Okay, all right. So if less resources are used to make more output, even the better. So what can we do to raise productivity to help the workers become more productive to do more than needed, right? So sometimes workers do not produce more than they're supposed to because they don't know how, or they have not been trained well enough. So training would be useful for them. Also, motivation, recognizing your workers when they've produced their first 10,000 kitchen cupboard, right? By giving them a certificate or a cash or bonus amount or something like that to keep them motivated through recognition and rewards. There could also be through the management itself, where they have better leadership and management systems where they can make decisions better so that workers do not have to feel like they are overworked, that they have to produce more. Sometimes tiredness could also lead to people being able to be leading them to producing less than needed, right? So it all boils down to scheduling of workers, ensuring that workers have enough rest, better decision making by the management, most importantly, so that people feel they have adequate energy to produce and be productive. Sometimes, most of the time actually, especially in manufacturing kitchen cupboards, you need technology, you need high-end machines that can help human beings, workers, produce more quality output. Okay, so now let's discuss a little bit. Company A and B produce kitchen cupboards with the same information as the previous slide here. As you can see, all this thing over here, but there's some added information here on annual pay per worker and average cost per worker. All right, let's digest that for a bit before we look at the questions. Company A, 5,000 units, 10 workers, 500 units per worker. This is the labor productivity. Now we've added information about annual pay per worker. These workers, each one of them, gets $2,000 per year. All right. And because they produce 5,000 units per year, then the average cost per worker is recorded here, which is $4. And with 12,000 units who produced by 20 workers, the productivity rate, labor productivity is 600 units. They also get the same amount of annual salary per worker, which is $2,000, and the average cost per worker is 3.33. Right? So what we're trying to say here is productivity helps reduce cost per unit when it is high. To measure the average labor cost for both companies, the annual pay is required. So in this example, both companies pay their employees $2,000 per worker. So what is the formula for average cost per worker or average labor cost? It's basically looking at annual pay here divided by the labor productivity. Annual pay versus labor productivity. Okay? So for company A, with 10 workers and 5,000 units produced, each worker is able to produce 500 units, right? And the cost is $4 per kitchen cupboard. Yeah, right? And for company B, 20 workers and 12,000 units produced each year, per year, each worker can produce 600 units, and the cost per unit of each of this is $3.33. So when there's higher labor productivity, right, this is apparent when you are more productive, right? You have more number of workers, that's number one, but these workers can produce a lot more per worker, giving you a higher level of output over here. This actually brings down your cost per unit, right? It makes it cheaper for the business because now with paying less, these workers can do more. Okay, labor productivity is higher for company B than company A, and the company also enjoy a lower unit cost compared to company B because of company A, sorry, because of a high productivity. It's also important to note that sometimes productivity may be high, which means workers can and is able to produce a lot more, but the output that's released is low, and it's not because of their own doing, but it could be because of a drop of demand, or maybe the company's direction in slowing down or downsizing, right? So this could lead to a lower productivity as well. Okay, that's all we have for this video so far. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you again in the next video.